All right, so last time we had met, we had spoken about compound interest and compounding, and how with compounding, um, you make more over time, right? As time passes, your amount adds up more and more because time is like that biggest factor when it comes to compounding, right? Because you know each step that you get to builds on the last step. And this time, I'm going to talk about investments in retirement and savings. And the idea is basically here's some ways that we can use compounding to our benefit, right? Use compounding to actually make money or increase our saving capacity and get our money to do something. So the first thing, we already seen this picture, and the idea was which person do we want to be? Do we want our money to work for us, or do we want to work for our money? And we had kind of all agreed that our preference would be this person here, who is letting his money do the work and just enjoying the benefit, versus this person here who's doing all the hard work, to make some money, right? This is working for your money. This is your money working for you. And so we want to be a guy in the purple suit. So for saving money, there are a couple of different ways we can save money, a couple of different avenues for saving money. The first avenue would be what we call a high yield savings account. And a high yield savings account is basically like money you would put in the bank, but the only difference is you're getting a much, much higher interest rate. Now, normally with a bank, you just get like 0.01% a year or something crazy. And so, you get the statement at the end of the year, and it's like you've made 10 cent on your balance this year. Or most times it's not even 10 cents, like 1 penny. You made $1, right? A high yield savings account is where you have a much, much higher interest rate. Sometimes these things will come with other little requirements about like accessing your money or withdrawals that you can make and whatnot. But basically, a high yield savings account is one option. We can do online banks, credit unions, right? Both of these things will offer high yield savings accounts. So most of the online banks have savings accounts that will give you like 2% interest, right? 2% compound interest, or 1.5%, which is a whole lot bigger than the 0.01% that a normal bank would give you. We also have certificates of deposit, which you've probably heard of as CDs. And a CD is basically an account where you put your money into the account and you agree not to try to withdraw that money for a certain period of time. So maybe you put your money in the account and you say, for 5 years, I won't withdraw this money. Or for 10 years, I won't withdraw this money. And because you make that agreement, now the bank can use the money that you put into the CD. And because they can use it, they pay you interest on that money, right? So they pay you interest on it. We can also use these little investment apps, right? Those might be like Robinhood or Acorns and stuff like that. Those are options that are getting more popular now, where people will, do things like where they round up the amount of money that they have. They'll do like a roundup thing, where every amount they get, they just round up. Every amount they spend, they'll round it up and put that little extra bit into a little investment account. So those are options as well. Some of the options that I've heard of are Acorn, Betterment, Robinhood. I'm not recommending any particular one. I'm just saying these are some options. There are probably more out there. There will be more that pop up. But just make sure if you sign up for some of these, make sure you do your research first. Make sure you do a lot of research into it before you actually sign up. Then we can save money in a traditional bank. And a traditional bank would just be like you're just putting your money there. You're not going to make money on your money really. You're just putting there to save it. You got 401ks and Roth IRAs. Those are basically retirement savings plans with your job, right? So some jobs might offer these kind of retirement plans, where you also are making some kind of agreement that you won't touch the money, and you let your money grow. You can adjust your investments, right? Adjust how much. Most of them you can get in there and kind of fine tune exactly what it is that you want to do. You can get in there and fine tune it, right? So all of these are different kinds of savings plans and ways that we can alternatively save money, right? And we're going to kind of look at a method that we can calculate how much money we're going to make. So to make a savings plan, first we need to ask ourselves, what are we saving for, right? So the different things we might save for. Are we saving for something short term? A short term thing might be something like, I need a new laptop, right? And I'm trying to buy a new laptop. Other short term expenses might be car maintenance, saving for car maintenance, saving for regular hospital bills, saving for anything that's really kind of short term. That's a short term expense. Our long term expenses, those might be, like our rainy day fund. That might be saving up for a deposit on a house, saving up for a car, stuff like that would be in that category. We can do health savings plans, right? Most of our jobs will let us do like HSAs where we can put money aside, and that money will be basically, we can use that money tax free if we put it aside to specifically use for health stuff. Or we could save for retirement. And retirement would just be saving money over time, and eventually the idea is that when you do retire, you will have a steady stream of income. In general, when you're saving money, even if you're not compounding, but particularly if you're compounding, the more time you have, the more money you will have, right? So more time equals more money. When you're saving for stuff like retirement, time is the most important factor, right? Because the longer you have to save for retirement, the better off it'll be. And we might do an example where we basically show the difference between someone who starts saving late versus someone who starts saving early. Someone who starts saving late and puts more money aside versus someone who starts saving early and puts less money aside. And when we're looking at different options for saving money, we want to make sure we're using math to compare the different options, right? We don't want to just guess. We don't want to just say, oh, this sounds good. This sounds like a lot. This sounds decent. We want to make sure we are using math to actually go about making these decisions, right? And to define what we mean specifically when we say a savings plan, we are specifically talking about some kind of account where you, on a regular basis, like some regular interval, you're putting money into that account. That's what we mean when we're talking about a savings plan. And for a savings plan, that money is gaining compound interest. So you're adding money to your balance, right, on some regular interval, and you're getting compound interest. This is the savings plan formula, right? And we have a couple of different inputs that we need to know. It's a little different than the compound interest formulas. The first new thing we have is this PMT, right? So PMT is the regular payment amount, or the amount that you regularly put into your account, right? So if you're putting aside $100 a month, your PMT would be 100. So it's whatever you regularly put in. R is your annual percentage rate, right? Your annual interest rate. Whatever amount of interest, whatever interest rate the bank or whatever is quoting you that you'll make on your money. And make sure again that you put it as a decimal. N is the number of payment periods per year. So if we're putting aside money every month, N would be how many times we put aside money in a year. So if we're putting it aside every month, N would be 12. If we put aside money every 2 weeks, N would be what? 26. If we put aside money every week, N would be 52, right? What if we put aside money, I don't know, every Saturday? We would find out how many Saturdays there were in a year, right? I think there's 52 Saturdays in a year or somewhere around there. And that would be what N is. So N is however many times we put money into that account each year. And then we have Y, which is the number of years that we're saving money for. And when we put all of that stuff into our formula and we simplify it, we get A, which is our accumulated savings plan balance. Now, just a quick note, when you do this, there are two things that I want you to do first. I want you to do this first, right? So do this first, the n times y. Just simplify that exponent, get one number there as the exponent. And then I want you to do this second, right? Do r divided by n and simplify that. Right? Simplify that. And when you do that, you can also put the same thing. See, it's the same r over n. You can put it in both places. And once you do that, it'll make the whole formula a whole lot easier because it's just one exponent, a little bit of addition, some subtraction, and then a little bit of division, and that's it, right? So do those things first. In particular, right? In particular, you should really be doing this first. N times y. Do that first, right? And basically what that n times y gives you, it gives you the total number of times you're going to put money aside. That's what this gives you. The total number of times over the life of the amount of time that you're saving money, the total number of times you're going to put money aside. Right? So let's do an example. For this example, right, what we'll do, we'll say you are saving, say, $200 a month. So you just had a baby and you're like, ooh, I want to save money for my daughter's college fund. So you say, I'm going to put aside $200 a month for the next 18 years, right? And you see online that there's an online bank that will give you a 2.5%, $200 a month. There's a bank that'll give you a 2.5% interest rate. So 2.5%. Now, what we need to do here, first we need to say to find. What are we trying to find? We are trying to find the total amount saved. Right? Now we can go into our given. And when we do our given, we need to say, well, what are the things that we're looking for? We're looking for PMT, R, N, and Y. We know it's a savings plan because they told us we're putting aside $200 a month, right? And so the PMT is what? What's the PMT?
200.
200, yes. So the PMT would be 200, right? And then the R would be what? That's the 2.5%. So that's the 2.5%. So turning that into a decimal would be 0.025. N would be what?
18 years.
Not 18. N is not the number of years. N is the number of times we are putting aside money in 1 year.
1 year.
So if it's $200 a month, how many times will we save that $200 in 1 year?
One second.
Well, we're putting aside $200 a month. So how many times will we put aside $200 in 1 year?
12 times.
12 times. So N is 12. And then we have Y, which is the number of years. How many years are we saving money for?
18.
18 years. Right. Now we have our solution. And for our solution, we're just going to plug these numbers in. So we have A equals PMT times 1 plus R over N to the N times Y minus 1. And that is all divided by R over N. Let's put back over here. Yep, we got the formula correct. Now we plug in all of our numbers. So this is going to equal PMT is 200 times 1 plus R over N, 0.025 over 12. Right, 0.025 over 12. And then we have to the NY. N is 12. Y is 18. So 12 times 18 minus 1. And that is all divided by 0.025. 5 over 12. Now again, what are the things that we need to do first? Let's just simplify this. And let's simplify this and this. So we're going to simplify those things. So let's do the exponent. Let's do the r over n. So we have 1 plus, we do 0.025 over 12. I'm going to use my calculator. 0.025, clear. 0.025 divided by 12. That is 0.0021. That's what we'll do. It was 0.00208, but we rounded it to 0.0021. And then we have 12 times 18. We'll just do that as well. And we get 216 minus 1. And that is divided by 0.025 over 12, which we already did, and we said that was about 0.0021. Now the problem is looking a whole lot simpler, right? And we can actually go ahead to solve it, plugging in these things, we do this addition, right? Because parentheses first, then we do the exponent, then we do that subtraction, then we're going to do the division, then we're going to multiply it, right? So let's start off with what's in the parentheses. So in the parentheses, we have 1 plus 0.0021. I'm running out of space, so I'm going to do it like this. I'm just going to erase, and I'm going to change that to 1.0021. 1.0021. I just added the two things. Now we need to do the exponent. This here, the exponent, parentheses, then exponent. We're going to do this exponent here. So we have 1.0021, and we're raising it to the 216th power. And we get 1.57, so I'm going to erase that again. And I'm doing it like this just because I ran out of space. When you do it, you should like go to a new line. I'm going to erase that because I'm running out of space. And we got I don't want that color. I want red. And we get 1.573. Right? So we have 1.573 minus 1. So we're going to do 1.573 minus 1. And when we do that, that's pretty easy. We don't even need a calculator to do that because we just get 0.573. So we're going to do our 0.573. Now we need to do the division. 0.573 divided by 0.0021. And I'll rewrite that. We get 200 times, and let's do 0.573 divided by 0.0021, and we get 272.85. It's 86 because it was 857, so we'll round it up to 0.86. And then when we multiply this together, I'll write my answer over there, times 200, and we get 54571.4, and that's our answer. So look at that over real quick. And you can see once we started simplifying it, it wasn't all that hard, right? It didn't get all that complicated once we started simplifying it. Once we started simplifying it, we just had to go through each step and kind of do each step separately, right? That's all we had to do. Go through each step and do each step separately. So you can see that if this person saved that $200 a month, right, for the 18 years, this is what they would end up with, $54,000 at the end of the 18 years. Now, we can actually do another calculation here. What would they end up with if they did not actually get any interest on this money? So if they didn't, we would just do what? 200 times 12 is how much they're saving in a year. And then how many years are they doing it for? 18 years. So 200 times 12 times 18. And we can see what that is. 200 times 12 times 18. And we get 43,200. Right? So when we compare these two numbers, I mean, one way to think about it is that you got an extra 10,000, more than 10,000. It's like an extra 11,000 and change, an extra $11,000 just from doing this, putting it in an account that's going to give you a little bit of interest. And 2.5% interest is not like some huge amount, right? It's not a huge amount of interest, but you just made an extra 11,000 and change just from putting your money in an account that was going to gain you interest. And that would be versus if you just took that $200 a month and say stuffed it in your mattress or something, right? So whenever you have an opportunity to save money and put it in an account that's going to gain some interest, that is the option that you should take, because otherwise you're kind of just throwing away, I'm not going to say free money, but you're throwing away money, right? You're throwing away money that you can make by putting it in an account that gains interest. So moving on, when we want to compare different investments, so that's one of the things we may want to do. We may come across some different opportunities, and we may want to say, well, which one is better? Which one am I going to put my money into? So when we compare different investments, one, you want to start off by comparing what amount you have to put into each one, right? So what amount do you have to put in? What's the required initial investment? Then you want to compare the total. What are you going to get back as a return on your investment, right? And then we're looking at which one is going to give us a higher amount of money each year. And that amount of money that you get each year, we call it the APY, or the annual percentage yield, right? APY, or the annual percentage yield, which is the amount that you get back each year, right? And we look at the annual return, which is another kind of thing for the APY, another way of saying the APY, but it's the amount that you get back each year, right? What percent of your money do you get back each year? We also want to say which one's going to give us a higher return in total. And the idea is that the quoted amount that we get back may seem a little higher for one, but if the initial investment is higher, we may not be getting a higher return on our investment, right? We may not be getting a higher return on our investment. And then the last thing we want to do is which investment seems safer. So particularly in this time period where there are a whole bunch of scams kind of circulating, you really want to look at which investment seems safer. And we'll talk about a couple of ways when we end this part. We'll talk about a couple of ways you can kind of look at investments and see, is this a real investment? Is this a scam? Is this safe? What's going on with this thing here? So starting off with the total return, right? The total return is telling us in total by what percentage did our money grow by, or did it shrink by? So that's what we're looking at. Did our money grow, or did our money shrink? And if it did, what percentage did it grow or shrink by, right? So to find the total return, we only need to know two things. We need to know what you start with, and we need to know what you end up with. That's literally all you need to do. P is what you start with, while A is what you end up with. And with the total return, if you get a negative number out, that means you lost money. If you get a negative number, you lost money. Right? So we're doing what you end up with minus what you started with, right, divided by what you started with. And that gives us the total return. Right? So in this example, we could actually find the total return because this is the amount that you put in, right, which is kind of what you start with, even though it didn't start with that altogether. And this down here is the amount you get back at the end. So we can compare these two and find a total return. So let's do 43,200 and 54,571. Let's see. So we put in a total of $43,200, and that ended up getting us a total of $54,571, and we won't leave off our 40 cents. So to find the total return, again, we just need to know what you start with and what you end up with. So we do A minus P. So we do 54,571.4 minus P. P is what we started with or what we put in. 43,200 divided by P, which is 43,200. Now this last times 100 is just turning it into a percentage. That's what the times 100 does. It turns it into a percentage. So we can calculate it as a decimal, then multiply it into a percentage. So let's do this on our calculators. 54,571.4 minus 43,200. Now just a note, make sure you press equals after you do the minus, particularly if you're doing your calculation on like an iPhone or your Android phone or whatever. Make sure you press equals because they don't obey PEMDAS in this kind of way. And they'll do the subtraction first and then they'll do the division first, and then they'll do the subtraction. So they won't respect that. It's almost like they won't respect that we need to do these two things first if you just put in your calculator and press equals. So make sure you press equals after you do the subtraction. And then we divide it by 43,200. And I got 0.263. And then it goes on a little bit. So turning this into a percentage, we get 26.3%. That is our total return. We made 26% on our money. Right? That's how much money we made, 26% on our money. Now, the annual percentage yield, there are a couple of ways that we can find the annual percentage yield. I don't recommend that you try to do this way. I find that way to be a little complicated. This is the way I prefer to do, where the APY is A over P. The only extra thing we need to know when we do the APY is we need to know how many years we're doing the investment for, and that's Y. A is still what we end up with. P is still what we are starting with or what we put in. And then Y is the number of years. Right? So it's the same kind of thing. So for that one, let's use the exact same example and find the APY. A was what we end up with. That was what? 54,571. 54,571. Divided by P. What did we put in? We put in 43,200. And it's raised to what power? The 1 over Y. How many years were we saving for? I think we were saving for 18 years. For 18 years. And then we have a minus 1 on the outside. And this is going to give us the APY. Now, the first thing you should do here, do your division. Just do 1 divided by 18 and see what that is as a decimal. Then you can put that in your calculator as a decimal exponent. So this is going to equal, we're going to write it over, 54,571 divided by 43,200. And that's raised to the 0.05, and it defies repeat, so we'll say 0.056. And then we'll say minus 1. Now we do what's inside of the parentheses first. So 54,571 divided by 43,200 equals 1.263 to the 0.056 and then the minus 1. Now we do that to the 0.056 power. Just put in the number just like you put any other exponent. Put the decimal in just like you put any other exponent. I did mine wrong because I forgot to put in the 0.0. 0.056. And we get 1.013 minus 1. Right, 1.013 minus 1. And we get 0.013. which is the same as 1.3%. Right, that's the same as 1.3%. I'm feeling like I did something a little weird here. Let me look at my numbers really quickly. The reason why I feel like I did something a little weird, 1.263. Yes, 0.056. That's correct. Okay, it doesn't look like I did anything wrong. Did you all get the same answer?
Yes.
Okay, so that was our annual percentage yield. Our annual percentage yield is 1.3%, right? Which still isn't bad. You know, it's a little smaller than what was quote unquote quoted to us in the 2.5%. But that's our annual percentage yield. The part of the reason why it's smaller is because we are putting in this money every month, right? So it's not like we started with this amount of money. If we started with a lump sum of 43,200 and we just let it sit for 18 years, we would have way more money, right? Like a good, decent bit more money. But because we're starting and we're building it up slower, that's what makes our interest rate look a little smaller. So the APY is how much money you get back year on year, right? What's your percent yield, your percent return each year? So let's talk about identifying scams. The first thing that we should always look at when we're identifying scams is it too good to be true? So if it's too good to be true, then it is probably a scam, right? Someone promises you that you're gonna make so much money from something and you don't have to do anything. That's too good to be true. Someone says, I'm gonna give you $8,000, you put in $1,000, too good to be true. If y'all did that Cash App thing, that's a scam. Now, something being a scam doesn't necessarily mean you won't make money. What it means is that more people are going to lose money, significantly more people are going to lose money than make money. And whenever people have scams, people always set up scams in such a way that a couple of people make money. Because if you think about it, if there was just a line of people that didn't make money behind a scam, I mean, would you ever sign up for the scam? Like, if there was no one who could say, I made $800 from doing the Cash App thing, no one else would do it, right? So there are always a couple of people that make money, and those people end up convincing more people to join in, and those more people that join in don't end up making money and end up losing money. I'm actually going to send you all a video I made, particularly about that, Cash App pyramid type scam where you all send somebody money in the middle and then you get moved up and blah, blah, blah. I actually made a video about that because that one is just going rampant because, a lot of people need money right now. And so the scammers are out, preying on people who are in need. Another thing is liquidity, right? Liquidity is basically saying how easy is it for you to get your money out? If it's very hard for you to get your money out, then that means it's not very liquid, right? And we want something where it's easy for us to get our money out. That's what we want. Something where it's really, really easy for us to get our money out. Is it complicated? Like, do the stars have to align? Is that part of the pitch? You do this, you do this, you do this, and then your energy is proper and blah, blah, blah. And then, now you have opened the gateway for you to make money. Or is it we have some special formula that's going to make you so much money, but it's a secret? Stuff might start sounding too complicated. Usually when stuff sounds too complicated, it's a scam. Most of the ways where you make money, right, that are official, that are not scammy, most of those ways are relatively straightforward and simple. Is it unlicensed? That's another thing you want to look at. Yeah, that one kind of speaks for itself. Almost all of the referral-based income streams are scams. Almost all of them. Like all of the things where you have to refer someone else or bring someone else on board for you to make money, almost all of them are scams, right? And when someone comes to recruit you, that's a good clue that it's a scam. right? And that leads into the next one where it's basically you're making money by collecting other people. Those things are scams as well. And again, the reason is because as each level or whatever passes, it's harder and harder and less likely for someone to be able to make money, right? And so, and on top of that, there are more and more people as each level passes. So there are more and more people that will not make money when you have those things. You almost never want to send someone that you don't know money through any means that can't be returned. So credit cards are okay, but you don't want to Cash App somebody money. Don't Venmo somebody money. Don't Western Union somebody money. I don't care if they came and they said they were a prince from. I tried to remember the name of the place on. What's the name of the place on Aladdin? Anybody remember?
No.
I really don't.
Okay, let me see. Aladdin. I'm gonna Google it. Aladdin Kingdom. Agrabah. So I don't care if they're a prince from Agrabah, right? And they say Western Union me money, and then I'll be able to send you such and such an amount of money. It's a scam. Don't Western Union. Also, don't buy like stuff from people online where you have to send the money via Western Union or something like that. Usually, the only one that's kind of safe in terms of sending money online is PayPal, because PayPal does have stuff where PayPal will actually try to get you your money back or like try to reverse a payment in some cases. But still, you don't want to be sending money to randos, right? And that is kind of it. Just be really, really careful when you're looking at investments, because it's very, very, very easy to get scammed, particularly when you are in a situation where you need money.